Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the ICT Educator webinar series. I'm Steve Wright, Statewide Director for the ICT team of the Workforce and Economic Development Department of the California Community College System, which is always hard to get out at a cocktail party. Of course, I don't go to those anymore because of COVID, These webinars are brought to you by our entire sector team, and they're produced by Nicole Sherman. Our guest speakers all volunteer their time for the sake of our student success in our system. I'd like to quickly remind you, at the beginning of the year, this excellent ICT Winter Conference planned for the 7th and 8th. It's online. I think it costs $25. And this is just a sensational conference. I compare it to the Interop in Vegas for like a fraction of the price, and is put on by Karen Stanton and Richard Grodiga. So please sign up for that one. On our website, also, by the way, we now have over 40 recorded webinars produced from you, our faculty, as well as successful how-to outsider subject matter experts. Each webinar is recorded, edited, chapterized, transcribed, along with the PowerPoint presentations for your later viewing use. With over 4,000 views to date, we hear from faculty what an excellent resource it is for classroom or grant writing and many other things. Now, this is going to end our series for the fall, today's webinar, but we'll be back again in mid-January with a compelling lineup for next year. Today, however, is going to be very interesting. We have Paula Hodge and Suzanne Mata, our regional directors from South Central Coast and Inland Empire, going to introduce faculty and practice labs management, Jake Hoff, and the whole practice lab solution. They've helped encourage it in their regions, and we have going to hear today from faculty and others about best practices and its current features. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Suzanne and Paula to introduce their panel and to manage us through these different presentations. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is Suzanne Mata. I'm the Regional Director, Employer Engagement for the ICT and Digital Media sector in the Inland Empire. I'm looking forward to hearing from my faculty today from two of our colleges that have implemented and been using quite successfully the Practice Labs virtual lab platform. We have funded this through a regional strong workforce project. We went through a process where we did a needs assessment and we did compression planning, and we determined that a virtual lab platform would be very helpful in our region because we are so geographically large and spread out. We have a lot of remote areas, a lot of students that have access issues. So after a long process of figuring that out, then we went to selecting a vendor, and ultimately after reviewing 7 different vendors, our faculty selected Practice Labs. So I'm excited to hear from our faculty today that are going to share their experience. Paula?
Good morning, everyone. And to what Suzanne said, we did a similar thing back in 2017-18, identifying that we wanted virtual labs to support students as far as 24/7 virtual access. And then from a financial perspective, the cost with capital purchases and the limitations of on-site labs, we wanted to increase the functionality of our training or education in ICT. I am pleased that through this whole process that we began, that we chose Practice Labs, and that faculty and actually IT staff were a part of the whole analysis and decision-making and selecting Practice Labs as our solution. We will hear from Ed Garcia today from Moorpark College. In the South Central Coast region is 8 colleges, Northern LA County, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, and San Luis Obispo County. So this was definitely a regional effort, and I'm very pleased that you're here to listen about our journey and our solution. So with that, I think Suzanne, you're
Yes.
first on the base.
Thank you, Paula. And just to kind of piggyback on what Paula was saying, so we're the Inland Empire Desert region. We have 2 counties, Riverside and San Bernardino County, with 6 colleges in each of the 2 counties. And first up, we have Casey Nguyen, who is faculty from Moreno Valley College.
Hi, as Suzanne was telling you, my name is Casey Nguyen. I teach at Moreno Valley College. We started implementing the certificates under the cybersecurity IT technician pathways. So under the certificate, we offer courses that relate to Security Plus, ethical hacking, computer forensics. And I also implemented Practice Lab for our non-credit courses, and our students in the non-credit courses actually took advantage of this to experience hands-on practice through the virtual environment. As you know, that we went virtual since March. And the experience has been pretty positive for all of us. Practice Lab has been very responsive in all my questions and the concerns. They had upgraded some of the virtual machines to make sure that it's adequate because we experienced some slow connection with one of the virtual machine, and they had changed that. With the CompTIA A+ based courses, the students were able to obtain some of the exam prep along with all the other courses as well. So Practice Lab has been a very useful tool for us, and with no extra cost to the student, this project has been very beneficial for our college.
Thank you so much, Casey. Now we'll transition to Ed Garcia at Moorpark College. And he's going to really talk about the solutions, not only using Practice Labs, but also using other tools that we have in our toolkit. As we know that as we're teaching out there, or the faculty are teaching, they need various tools to get the message and the learning done with the students. So Ed, I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to you.
So my name is Ed Garcia. I teach at Moorpark College. I've been there for 20 years. And what I wanted to do today was share a little bit of how we use a variety of tools to really enhance the student experience. I mean, when us as faculty, what we really look at is at the beginning of the semester, we design our course. We think about how the student experience is going to be. And then at the end of the semester, which is like right now, we look at, okay, what was the experience like for students? Did they really, did my Canvas course really take the student to an engaging experience? What was the student experience like? What things could I improve on? What were some of the challenges students had? And the bottom line is, when you look at your grade book, how many students successfully completed the course? I mean, that's really what we're after, right? Our success rates. So I'm going to address that at the end of my presentation, okay? Because I think it's important to keep that in mind. So one of the courses, so this is a typical strategy. We have what I'm showing you here on this is an 18-week semester. And what I'm showing you here is I use a Canvas LMS. That's the learning management system. We're all familiar with that. It's got assignments, due dates, nothing new there. Also, what's different for us, as a lot of our campuses are now moving towards, is a zero cost textbooks, right? We all want to lower the cost for students, reduce as many barriers as possible. So we use Safari O'Reilly. Now, Safari O'Reilly, let me show you that. Safari O'Reilly has a huge database of courses. So that's purchased through our library. I would strongly encourage you to look into your library to see if they will subsidize that. I think we paid on our campus, our library has all these periodicals and stuff that they purchase every year, and they use very little of it. And in my opinion, this was a very worthwhile investment for our campus, because now our entire campus has access to a technical library, and now I can pull books from there. So I'm using a TCP for this particular course. I'm using TCP/IP protocols book. It's 23 chapters, and it covers all of the key elements. It's like a 1 hour. It's a 1 hour chapter. Typically takes about an hour for the student to go through that one chapter. And we cover all 24 chapters in the 18-week semester. So we use a free ebook. So I've got the book issue, the textbook issue resolved using Safari O'Reilly. That was the first challenge for this course. The second challenge was, okay, so I've got a book. What about the actual activity the students are going to be using? So we're using LinkedIn Learning for that. So I found a really good course on LinkedIn Learning that has a lot of demonstrations, a lot of video. It has some quiz questions. So it's a LinkedIn Learning type of video experience. And I found this course by Lisa Bach. And she walks the students through the LinkedIn Learning course. Let me show you what that looks like. Move this out of the way here. So this is, can you guys see the LinkedIn Learning course? So in the LinkedIn Learning course, it's walking through the very basics of Wireshark, for example. It's walking through how to do protocol analysis, how to do the display filters, the capture filters. It's content, and it's very, very well done. The entire course takes probably about 3 hours. So what I do through the entire semester, students are doing like 15 minutes a week of the course. So they get to a certain point, and then I integrate a quiz through my LMS where I'm asking them questions about what they just learned through the LinkedIn Learning course. So there's that integration. So students now are watching the video, and then they actually do the exercises on their local computer. So they're running Wireshark on their local computer. So now I'm addressing the hands-on learning locally on their local computer. So that builds that confidence and that experience using their local computer. So that's the second component. Then you go back to my, and then now that's the meat of today's topic, is the practice labs. So now, as you know, with COVID in particular, what's happening, I've had to install Adobe and some other resources on my computer. Well, I can't have access to our Moorpark College campus. So what is the IT staff doing? What the IT staff at Moorpark College is doing, they're doing remote access. They're remotely accessing my computer, and they're installing software. They're doing remote maintenance, okay? We also have a huge internship program at our campus. And guess what? Students go to a facility. These IT students from my program, they go to a facility, and they're actually connecting to their clients remotely. So a lot of my students, so what's happening in our marketplace and the IT environment, a lot more remote management, remote maintenance, remote tech support is happening. We're going to see an increase in that. So all the more reason for having developing the confidence in students to be able to troubleshoot problems when the equipment is not right in front of them, but it's actually located somewhere else remotely. That's where practice labs really plays a significant role in establishing that confidence. So let me show you what my practice labs looks like. So in the practice labs, students can access a huge catalog of a variety of courses, kind of like NetLabs, where they have all these different courses. And the one that we use practice labs for our Security Plus, Network Plus, Linux Plus, Cisco CCNA, and all these additional courses. And then we were able to find a TCP/IP Wireshark course. So as you can see here, let me zoom in a little bit. You see all the different course offerings. There's stuff on databases, content on programming, JavaScript, Word, ethical hacker, security literacy, just a variety of content. Well, we found a Wireshark course that has worked out well for us. So let me go back to my, so in the Wireshark course, they actually do not 6, but they do 8 specific labs. Each lab it takes about an hour to complete. So when they access practice labs and they log in to the portal, there's a PDF document that walks them through step by step on how to complete the lab. Let me show you my course. So here's my course now. In my course, I have monthly assignments where they have to read the chapter, do the quiz, do the LinkedIn Learning, watch a LinkedIn Learning module, and then do an actual practice labs. Okay, the course has monthly due dates, so everything's due at the end of the month pretty much, as opposed to weekly because of COVID. So that's worked out fairly well. And as you can see, there's a lot of quizzes. There's a chapter quiz that they're constantly taking. There's a weekly LinkedIn Learning module that they have to complete. Each LinkedIn Learning module is about 15 minutes per week, right? So I spaced out the LinkedIn Learning module throughout the entire semester. And then they have a practice labs. So by the time they're done, let me go to my syllabus. Show you my syllabus for this course. So they actually complete. So I got the O'Reilly book that I mentioned. I mentioned which LinkedIn Learning module, which LinkedIn Learning course they're going to be completing. And then here at the bottom, it's got the weekly due dates, all the assignments. And then at the very end, I mentioned they've got these 8 labs that they're going to be completing on practice labs. All right. Let me go back to my document here, and let me scroll here so I can show you. So you've seen the Canvas assignments. These are all the Canvas that they're going to be completing. Okay, and then I mentioned the ebook that they're going to be using with 24 chapters. Approximately each chapter takes about an hour a week to read. Okay, and then here's my rubric. So I explain what it's expected for the chapter reading, and here's an example of an actual posting from a student where they're telling me what they learned for that hour. That's one example. So here in this example, they're learning about ping, ipconfig, traceroute, netstat. So they learned all about that in the ebook. Here's another posting. So students are writing back a report because, as you know, in the industry, they got to be able to communicate effectively about what they learned. Another posting. So these are examples of students' postings that they do every week on what they learned in the course. Now I'm showing you the LinkedIn Learning module of what they're going to learn that week. And you saw the output of screen of the actual LinkedIn Learning video where they're actually doing Wireshark activities, okay? And you see on the left, the actual content. So they cover that week by week, maybe 20 minutes a week on the LinkedIn Learning module. Okay, I'll scroll. And then they have on LinkedIn Learning, they have additional courses that they can take. Again, there's a whole database of courses related to certification such as Wireshark, Network Plus, Security Plus. So that's worked out well. And then finally, they go through the remote lab configuration, the remote lab assignments. Now, practice labs does have, so for each of my courses, most of our courses at Moorpark that are aligned to certification, they have a respective course on practice labs. And so what we do for each course, we have a practice labs orientation. What the practice labs orientation is, it's a course that takes, it's a module, if you will, that you spend like half an hour, the student spends half an hour on the module, and it's orienting you on how to use practice labs and how it works on its navigation, stuff like that. Okay, so here are the 8 practice labs the students do remotely, right, from their home, right? They access the remote lab and they go through these different Wireshark tools. So they have to learn how to, and each one of these practice labs is broken up into exercises. So for example, lab 1 has 4 exercises. Lab 2 also had additional, had 3 exercises, and so on and so forth. So they're broken up into mini modules. So when the student first connects to practice labs, they're given a topology diagram. They got to figure out how to navigate the online remote lab, which is critical. So when I've gone out to industry and I see how industry is doing remote labs, how they remote to their customers, they actually have a topology layout of the customer's networking environment to make sure that they connect to the right resource and configure the correct equipment. So again, it's reinforcing a lot of these skills that are common in the marketplace. So here's an example of practice labs where the student sees using remote desktop, they finally get to the Wireshark icon, they launch it, and now they're running Wireshark remotely. So here's a screen of the instructions on the left, where the student follows the instructions, and then the actual lab on the right. Now, students could shrink the instructions on the left, and this is what I advise students to do, and actually bring up dual screen and have a PDF on the right with the lab instructions, and then on the other screen have the actual lab where they actually could do the work. Okay, so here's a screenshot of them doing a packet tracer Wireshark lab. So they're using Wireshark and they're navigating. Okay, and then they can see the, let me launch the PDF. So this is the PDF that's walking them through step by step. So they would have this open in one screen while they're completing the lab in another screen. So it walks them through that. It walks the student through the lab completion. Okay, so here's the other piece. So towards the end of the semester, this class finishes next week. It'll be the end of the semester. So already I have 23 students enrolled in the course. I already have 12 students that have already finished the LinkedIn Learning course. And what they get upon completion is a certificate of completion. So they get to add that to their resume. They love that. So they're surprised, like, hey, this is cool. I got a certificate out of it. They can put that in their resume. They feel more confident, and they start understanding that when you finish a goal, usually there's a reward that follows. So in this case, they're getting a certificate of completion. And here's the student saying, hey, this is cool. I didn't know this would be a certificate. That's what the students, and there's my response. Of course, I told you Santa's for real. Kind of like Christmas humor. Anyways, students love it. Okay, so here's the key piece. Success rates. COVID climate right now. As we know, students are having a real difficult time. So retention, success rates are critical. We all know that. Look at the numbers. This is surprising. It's 90, 96, 98, 94%. That's the amount of work that was completed by students. That's really, really, really high. What is that telling me? It's telling me that my engagement components seem to be working pretty good. I think I'm probably going to end up out of the 23 students, probably 19, 20 of them are going to pass the course very well. and I'm sure there's about 2 or 3 that have not done any of the work, because they're having, challenges or whatever, and that's understandable. But that's a pretty good success rate. So I think if you look at the outcome, it kind of speaks for itself. This course is taught asynchronously. I have a meeting. So let me show you my, let me go to the main homepage of my course. So I have a weekly Zoom meeting. And at the weekly Zoom meeting, I cover a chapter typically. I cover what's going on with the LinkedIn Learning. I cover the practice labs, whatever has to be covered. And then I address whatever issue the students may have. So that's a weekly contact. And then I also have the recordings.
Ed?
So there's a recording, a weekly recording.
Thank you, Ed. We do have to move on to our next speaker, but it's very informative. And I also want to mention that for the South Central Coast region, we've been using Practice Labs since 2018. So we've been able to really, in a way, it's mature for us, and the integration. And Ed is showing what an amazing opportunity using Practice Labs and other tools, building out your coursework and using Canvas. Additionally, we also work with the high schools and what's feeding into these courses. So there's so much opportunity. And Ed, this is amazing. And I know you shared the Word document, so we'll make sure we make this available as well. Suzanne, the next presenter.
Thank you, Paula. Yes, I'm happy to introduce one of my faculty from Chaffey College, David Nimri. David, take it away.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. So what I wanted to do was just kind of touch on a couple of things that I found that have worked really, really well for Practice Labs and why it's kind of a unique element in improving instruction for our students. What I want to touch on is basically how it's actually acting as a cost savings for our students, how it's able to actually save them money. Just the amazing instant catalog. There's no need for technical support. And it also even has an auto grader of a sort. So it's a really, really good product. I kind of came new to Practice Labs. I didn't know what it was. Suzanne had led a bunch of us faculty to kind of evaluate everything that's out there. I mean, we looked at every single one of the major online or cloud-based lab environments. I mean, everything from NetLab to UCertify to obviously Practice Lab. We looked at the entire gamut. And at the end, us faculty had a vote, and we predominantly voted for Practice Labs because it combines a lot of really, really good stuff into a single package. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to share my screen, talk about a few stories, success stories, and how I utilize it, and how it can actually benefit your students, and why we as the greater regions of California should really, really focus on making this available to everybody. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I'll kind of talk through several of my classes and how I utilize Practice Labs and why it's so great. So can everybody see my Canvas course at the moment? Okay, perfect. So this is our virtualization and cloud computing course. So what we did was we combined virtualization and cloud computing because they're inherently related. And so we kind of teach it into a singular course. And what we've done is I've actually taken Practice Labs, and with their massive catalog, I was able to add all of the specific VMware labs that I want them to learn. And so I have our virtualization Practice Labs. And then in addition, we have combined those set of assignments with our Cloud Plus Practice Labs. Now, believe it or not, but Practice Labs does have actual cloud-based learning, which students do spin up machines in the cloud, specifically uses OpenStack. But either way, like, it's really, really good learning, and our students do get to practice virtualization and managing a cloud-based environment in this one class. And I don't have to pay anything for it, right? I didn't have to buy a specific secondary lab that comes with a book or anything. It's just go in, add what I wanted from this giant catalog, and my students go. And it's really, really great because it does have kind of an auto grader. It's a percentage, how much of the specific lab did you complete auto grader. So I can see, hey, my students got 75%, 100% of the labs done. And it takes away, my concern on whether or not my students are completing the labs, right? What I've done we've used the old Net Labs at Chafee for a while. And what I had students do was submit screenshots of the last step that they did in Net Labs, for example. Well, what do students do? They share, right? So as a teacher, how do I make sure that this is truly one person's assignment? They're actually completing things. And so this allows me to track on a per user basis on how much of the particular lab they've completed. So it's actually really, really nice from that regard. It helps me ensure they're learning. So this is just one of my classes. I use it in many of my classes, and our ethical hacking class, our cloud virtualization class, our programming classes even. It's got a built-in labs that have a Python interpreter on the VMs. So I'm able to basically allow my students to practice on those, right? So instead of having to, let's say, purchase the programming class book and also purchase, for example, an additional lab set, which we all know, a lot of books, they say, hey, you can have these labs for extra money. My students have to pay for that, right? They get the basic print book and I give them the practice labs. So saving my students money, and I get to make sure that they're learning the appropriate material. So I found it really, really helpful in that. So here it is, one class, here's another class. And you can tell, I'm giving my students tons and tons and tons of programming experience using Python, because that is kind of our core focus programming language, just because it's so powerful and useful. So that's, that is really, really good learning. In addition, I've noticed that the book publishers themselves are also using practice labs. So this is completely by accident. I didn't do this on purpose. I think I even emailed Susan. I'm like, oh my God, they're using the exact same thing. They are using, the book publisher Cengage is using practice labs. So sometimes for some classes, as Ed had specified, there's so much learning that needs to be completed that you really have to kind of take things from different resources. And so for our digital forensics class, what I did was, okay, I said, hey, we're going to go ahead and purchase this set of labs with this book. And then I'm also going to add on the practice labs. And so I went in here, and here it is from our CIS 65 or digital forensics class. I said, okay, we're going to do a data acquisition lab, lab 3.1 from Mindtap Cengage. So I go ahead and I add it, and there it is, right? Oh, sign me out. Let me go ahead and do that again, just so I can demonstrate. So I goes, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this Mindtap lab. It's going to pull it up for my students. And we'll give it this couple seconds it needs to complete it. Start assignment. And then what you're going to see is a practice lab right there available through Cengage, right? So Cengage is the big book publisher, also uses practice lab. Now, I didn't know this at the time, right? So when I went ahead and I went to the bookstore and I ordered everything months ahead of time, I didn't know this, right? So I linked the course and I started adding everything, and I was like, hey, this looks really familiar. So I went ahead and I pulled up the practice lab that we got, and I added it, and sure enough, it was the exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. And the reason it's showing this is because I already had it started once. So let me go ahead, yes, and delete and start it again. So there's my workstations that you get, the 3 workstations for the forensics class. And if I pull it up through practice lab in our shell in Canvas, there it is. It's the exact same lab, the exact same lab. So going forward, I'm just going to have my students get the cheap used print book for $30 or whatever, instead of having to pay for the full $119 Mindtap unlimited, and just give them the practice labs for free, right? So right then and there, I just saved my students $70 or $80 or however the math works out, just like that. And so now I'm like, oh, that was so cool. And I remember I was so excited, I was like emailing Suzanne. So So either way, so that's really, really good stuff. As you can tell, you can save your students lots of money. Now, here's a success story that I just think will really kind of drive this home as to why I've become a fan of practice labs, where previously I was not. I was just kind of agnostic. I had a student comes to me and she says, "Hey, Professor Nimri, I have an interview next week for a company that wants somebody that can assist with managing desktops, imaging, and a little bit of Windows networking in their environment." And she said, "Hey, you know what? I took the Windows administration course and the networking class 3 years ago, and I went ahead and I basically forgot everything, right?" She's a part-time student. I said, "No problem." So we have our own sort of sandbox environment that we get to play around with. I added her to my sandbox environment. I went into a practice lab, and just like that, I was able to pull up the modern desktop labs for her. I was able to add the desktop infrastructure labs and the Microsoft networking labs in practice labs, the whole bundle. And I said, "Here we go." And she went ahead and she's studying really, really hard for it. And she's prepared for her real life, interview. And she's going to be successful because she got to reinforce the things that she's done previously. And I was able to do that for her instantly. I mean, 5 minutes of my time and she's good to go. Okay. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to add a practice lab, either for a class or for one of those one-off situations, which a student just needs to reinforce, or a student needs a little bit of help, or they want to learn something. Instead of just saying, "Hey, go Google it," right? Watch this. I'm going to give you all the labs you could possibly drink, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create a new assignment. And I'm going to click on the plus sign, just like we all know, more options. Okay. So at this point, I'm just going to say PL test just for us. Okay. And now when it comes time to add the assignment, just external tool, click find. And now I just scroll down to practice labs. Click on it, and there's a little search button that comes up. And now I have the option of how to add and how many labs to add. So for example, I could do a single lab. I do practice lab. And I'm going to show you this giant catalog of stuff that I have to pick from for my students, right? I mean, that's a lot of good learning stuff, right? So for example, for my students, if let's say they wanted to learn everything from something as simple as Excel 2016 or something more advanced, like Windows Server administration on Windows 10, right? Networking fundamentals, whatever it is I want. Managing modern desktops is the one for this student, right? But it's got really, really good stuff. Cybersecurity fundamentals, for example, or digital literacy, whatever I want. Ethical hacking. But I'll just go ahead and do the modern desktop. And now notice I have all these really, really cool labs that my student can do, okay? All kinds of labs available to them, from managing profiles to group, I mean, like the whole thing is there. It's all available for my students almost instantly, okay? And if I click here and I click confirm lab, then my student has the option to start it just like I showed you earlier. But let's say I wanted to give my student the option. I could totally go in here and just say bundle. And at that point, the student I can give them an entire bundle. Hey, I want you to do the entire VMware library, have fun, right? Or if I wanted to, let's say for a specific practice lab, I want them to do any one that they choose from a subcategory, like all the modern desktops, but you get to pick which ones you want. Then I could say the student selects which lab they want to do. And when they pull it up, they could say, hey, I want this lab, okay? So it's really great because at that point, the user can select which module or which groups of modules they want to do. It's really, really helpful. And it's really, really simple. So let's just go ahead for just the fun of things, just select one. And let's say we'll go ahead and do installing, configuring Windows 10. They do have more advanced stuff, obviously. And at this point, I'm going to have them do this one lab. Select, set a due date, and it's done. Click save. The student, when they pull it up under the appropriate assignment category, they just click on go, and it pulls up the VMs for them and the instructions. So it's incredibly easy, it's incredibly awesome, and students can do whatever it is they want with it, right? So they can just turn on the machine and go to town. The machine will start turning on, and they can do whatever it is they want. So some of the benefits, obviously, is that they have huge savings. We have this instant catalog as teachers that really, really helps us help out our students. We don't have a tech, right? With the old Net Labs, you kind of have to have, hey, can you guys please download these images, or can you guys go to this website and give us this bundle, or can you please go ahead and modify the servers to have this? None of that's required. With Practice Lab, I could just go in and get the catalog. And if you work with the Practice Lab folks, they can even give you a custom lab. They create a custom lab for me. So it's really, really good stuff. So we don't need to contact Campus IT. They're busy enough, right? I just go ahead and do it myself. And it's just really, really good product. So that kind of covers it. Any questions for me?
Thank you so much, David. I think if we can go ahead, there is a couple questions in the chat, but we want to let Jake from Practice Labs do his presentation. So we'll keep track of those questions, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end. Chrissy, did you want to introduce our speaker?
Yes, we have Jake Hoff. He is the head of US growth with Practice Labs, and he has been our exceptional contact since we've been working with them.
So yeah, I appreciate the introduction, everybody. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys. You know, Casey, Ed, David did a fantastic job at kind of explaining the Practice Labs environment. And I'm going to do my best. I'm on a time constraint. I'm going to do my best so Paula and Suzanne don't give me the Academy Awards treatment and shoo me off the stage. So a little bit about Practice Labs. You know, our company mission, it's really to help our users, customers, partners, and our crew to be better today than they were yesterday. And at the bottom right corner of that slide, you'll see the crew values: the challenge, respect, and joy and reward. That's our kind of our internal messaging. But you know, if you see me posting on LinkedIn or such, I'll mention crew quite a bit. And really my story behind that is I've known the owner of Practice Labs, Ricky Doyle, and I've known Ricky Doyle personally for quite a few years. And he required me to go through this crew practice of, you know, our onboarding. And I was like, man, you know me, like, come on. And he's like, no, we have to make sure you fit. And so now, being with the company for, you know, the past few years, I understand why we do that. And the people that we have are completely bought into what we're doing, and you know, kind of being a good crew member to everybody. So Chrissy, if you can go next slide. So kind of where we come into play as far as your educational purposes, you know, we combine, you know, the great theoretical knowledge that you guys are giving them, the instructors, and we provide a platform to help apply that knowledge and develop the students' skills using real world hardware and software. Another benefit is, you know, it's a better understanding of, you know, what they're learning to help improve exam results and to develop their practical skills that employers are looking for. You know, it's kind of like a risk-free environment, a place where they can learn from their mistakes, and you know, really challenge themselves a little bit too. You know, not only, I know that Ed and David and Casey kind of pointed out the content side of things, but there are some problem-solving skills that goes along with this. You know, I would say on average, you know, about roughly 50% of our support tickets that come through are by user fault. They're either not following the directions closely enough. They skipped a step, something along those lines. They're in an environment they can't break, so it's good for them to think outside the box a little bit, and outside the context a little bit, and say, hey, you know, what if I tried this? So that this environment does allow them to do that. And in the end, as it relates to the hands-on practice and marrying it with the theoretical knowledge, it's really about student success. And the hands-on knowledge definitely gives them that confidence and understanding of how to apply the skills that they've learned. Next, Chrissy. So how do we make the day-to-day life easier in the distance learning world? We've all been, struggling with the COVID situation, learning from home. I've got 3 kids. Got 3 kids on Zoom class at the same time. All in different levels: high school, elementary school, et cetera. And it's a challenge for each one of them. Some more than others. But basically, what we do is, as it relates to your guys' courses, we provide an all-inclusive platform. What I mean by that, the content and the devices are all on one screen. And it's an on-demand access. There's no need to reserve time. It's available when the student needs it. So when you're talking about an asynchronous class, they don't have to, go into a scheduling platform to see if they can actually get in there, and it might be 11 o'clock at night. They can just pop in, go in and start learning and brushing up on those skills. And it does provide them the access to the latest hardware and software, and it's no simulations. It's a broad range, as David, Casey, and Ed had pointed out. The amount of topics that we cover is very broad, from fundamental, intermediate, and advanced levels. And I know that Ed had hit on the Module 0 title that we have. I strongly recommend, so if you guys are integrating this into Canvas, I strongly recommend that you guys implement Module 0. It is the tutorial to kind of get the student through the lab environment and help them understand. It's going to alleviate a lot of questions back to the instructor. I know it's cut down on their support tickets quite a bit, because it's an environment that people aren't used to, and if they have a really good tutorial, at the end of the day, they're not going to have the need to submit a support ticket to figure something out, and they won't have to reach out to the instructor for questions. So it's an extremely valuable tool. There's no hardware investment. It's all browser based. And then one thing that we're really proud of that happened just recently is we were certified as LTI Advantage Complete certified by IMS Global Learning Consortium for LTI 1.3. We're currently doing some testing with Canvas right now with the help of some SynEd folks, and we are making some pretty good progress there. And basically what the LTI 1.3 brings, it's quicker, easier, and more secure. And I know that David brought up the ease of how to build those courses in Canvas. This is going to make it just that much easier. Kind of where we're headed to the right there. Our vision is to improve the digital skills of 1 million learners by 2023 and help them gain employment or improve their career prospects. You're part of this. The reason why we partner up with the in the academic space and the professional learning space is because we have that vision. We're well on our way, and we definitely need to work together, work with you guys to get there. Kind of one of the things I'll touch on, and which is very exciting for us, is we're in the process of building a platform. It's an assessment platform. So basically, skills, knowledge, ability, and what it's going to allow the learner to do is kind of get an understanding and assess them on their knowledge, but also apply that knowledge and assess what they just completed. So we should have beta on that in the next couple of months, and we're excited to get that out there to kind of broaden our product a little bit. The other thing that we're really excited about, as far as, and Chrissy, if you can go back up one more, back to that one slide. That's my Academy Awards speech. She's telling me to move on. No. So as far as areas of our growth, we really have a strong focus on the content platform in our user experience. That's been something that we've had I guess some initiatives internally to really focus on those areas. And I'm not sure, and I wish she was on the call with me, but some of you folks may know the name, but Ima Rotella, she's been in the industry for a lot of years. She just started with us last week as head of production. So she's going to kind of bring all those initiatives together for us, and we're extremely excited about having her on board. You can go next, Chrissy.
Okay, I'm going to also tell you, we're going to leave a little time for question and answer. So I'm going to go to the next slide, but we're going to have to leave them wanting more. So
That's fine. That's fine. Yep. I'll quickly go through this stuff. And it really, I don't need to go into the platform because David, Ed, and Casey did a really good job of kind of going through that a little bit. But some of our new releases, they brought up digital literacy. This is a strong focus for us, and it's been very popular because, you know, in the COVID world, digital skills are lacking in a lot of areas. And I know our main focus has always been IT, cybersecurity, but really developing the digital skills of everybody, because that's where we're at now, and we need to focus on those folks that need the help. Cybersecurity Fundamentals is a new release, and then we just released last week the new Security Plus 601. Along with some of the sandboxes we recently released, you know, the vulnerability sandbox is probably the most popular, and you can see the lab topology at the bottom there for that. Now, roadmap wise, and this is the last thing I'll go through, Chrissy, and then we can wrap up. Roadmap wise, in Q1, so we've been known for certification titles since day one. We're expanding our portfolio to some role-based labs, not getting rid of certification titles. We're going to still focus on our core, but we really want to focus on role-based, work-ready content. And so in Q1, we're releasing a network engineer lab, a Linux administrator lab, and then a Windows Server 2019 administration concepts lab. And then also planned, this is, and if Louis, our one of our SMEs was on here, he was so excited to present this to me, but also planned is Azure Administrator Fundamentals. So part of the problem that we've always incurred with Azure and other cloud-based platforms is the student needs to create an account, an Azure account, and they can get a free trial for accounts that's good for 30 days. Now, we have come up with a solution where we provide access to the Azure lab environment. So there's no need for the student to create the account, no login necessary. It's auto login to the actual Azure platform. So we're extremely excited about that. And that should be coming sometime in Q1. So stay tuned. Otherwise, I will wrap. The Academy Awards is saying done, like move. Thank you very much.
Wow, a lot.
Jake.
What I like about it is we got an entire day's worth of presentations into 1 hour, and that was pretty phenomenal. And yes, Jake, you did leave us wanting more. I mean, this is an incredible. I've watched practice labs get introduced. I remember when Paula did some of the first footwork on that, and then got rapidly expanded. Suzanne picked it up out there, and I know there's been support from Syned and others that, and then Ed, to see what you've been doing, and David and Casey, it's phenomenal. Meanwhile, let's spend the last 2 minutes we have. Any burning questions? Have you guys had a chance to look through the chat? Is there anything you're ready to answer right now?
So I'll answer Nancy's latest question regarding TestOut fans. So I recently reached out to TestOut, and TestOut been in communication with me for a while. I used TestOut since the CDs, DVD days. Back then they would ship out a book along with the box that contains the CD and the DVD. Yes, TestOut does have a lot of the content that parallel with the examination for CompTIA and some of the other area. The challenge that we see with TestOut is TestOut has limited content. So they only have, I just spoke with the rep recently for one of the grant that we wanted to use. There were only 15 courses that were technically related. So purely just IT, you don't have a lot of the other areas. Like if you wanted to explore programming or some of the other things like practice lab, you won't have the access with TestOut. However, you know, you do have textbook content, and they would sell it as a bundle. So if you're looking at the student cost per license, it's a bundle cost is higher. And we love that the student didn't have to pay any extra just to use practice lab through the regional license. So that really helped my non-credit classes, because the non-credit students are the students that couldn't afford to go to school regularly. They couldn't afford to buy some of the materials. So it definitely helped me in my non-credit classes and my credit classes. as we work in Inland Empire and a lot of students can afford materials for the class.
I see a couple of questions here about getting an initial account, a pilot account, or a testing account. Jake, do you speak to that? We have people on the call from the CSU system that would like to give it a try. What's the best way to go ahead and try this out?
Yeah, so I think, and Chrissy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It might be best to kind of work through Chrissy, or you can reach out to me as well. But we'll definitely find ways to get the labs inside your hands, and get you guys kind of familiar with them. So.
And we don't require any kickbacks for that kind of referral or anything. Just
yeah.
Oh.
Just kidding. No, this is great. This is how we get the word out. Okay. Anybody see any other questions here that you can answer pretty quick?
I put my email in the chat, so if anybody is interested, just go ahead and send me an email, and I will work to get you more information and get connected.
And I know that since we are out of time, maybe we'll look through the chat and see if we can get some answers, and then have those answers associated with the posting of the webinar.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll need to save the chat on this one. Once again, cast of thousands here. Thank you, Jake, David, Ed, Casey, Chrissy, Paula, and Suzanne. This is very informative and a good way to end the year with a very dynamic presentation on how we're helping our students. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you in January.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.